Okay, currently I have a dilemma, which is that I need to buy a fuel canister and it costs $10, and I do have $10. But that's the only money I have, and I still need to find food to eat. And I'm kind of debating on where I should get a fuel canister. I don't know if there's a Canadian Tire nearby me. If there is, I don't know if I can even purchase it because it's not $10, or it's like a little over $10 or something. This freaking cord is effectively done for. I don't know if it's gonna work later on or something, or if there's something wrong with my phone. It's just not working. But yeah. I just found out that every person who's involved who got convicted of a charge or a crime involving theft against me, including the police officers and the judges, were ordered to stay 2 kilometers away from me, including York Regional Police, and one of them already violated the restraining order, and now they're getting sent to prison. And I don't know why they keep doing this. It's all white people, by the way. Like I said before, like, white people don't understand anything. Like, they're really stupid, and like they think that they know everything. And like the movie Letter to Momo, like, she got really upset because people didn't like the things that she was doing, but she thought it was fine because she's just different from other people and they need to accept her. And her defense is that they made her angry, and she's allowed to respond that way if she feels like her rights have been violated. Right? Sorry about it, but I think all white people are homosexual, and I think the homosexual gene is from Europeans only specifically, which is why nobody wants to breed with them. But yeah. I think, like, honestly, I think that's the cause of what happened to the Chinese people, which is like they saw what white people were like and they were shocked. And like you couldn't even train them, they couldn't get educated, they were savages. Like, they were so, like, very monkey-like and ape-like. And this is where the whole Chinese monkey brains comes from, when they're like trying to say like Chinese people, I think that's Cambodian slang, to say like Chinese people believe what white people think or are saying. And it's like, Cambodians hate white people. I just noticed, like, the whole Christian cult thing was actually written by the Cambodians and translated into English, and I don't know why anybody would believe them, but they do. And I'm like, yeah, that's kind of weird. But anyway, yeah, that's their whole point. They're like, why would anybody believe white people? And I'm like, I don't know. They're just so weird, and they always want to be with other people, and the Chinese are just like them now. Because they like keep siding with their politics and policies or whatever, even though it goes against their own politics and standards. Anyway, this video is about standards. So what are standards? Standards are like things that you have, that like rules that you go by regardless of the situation, time, or place, and or person. So like, I will always make sure that people are being fed and clothed and housed. I don't give a shit what that person has done to me or other people. Right? The basic human rights and human decency, those are called standards. So these are my standards regarding that. So that kind of stuff is like, I don't have to give them really good quality food, but as long as it's not rotten or moldy or toxic or poisoned food. So those are called standards. If you don't abide by any sort of rules and regulations regarding anything, regardless of who and what and where it is, who's involved, where it's occurring and how it's occurring, all that kind of stuff, doesn't matter. Those things don't matter. What matters is what you're doing and how you're gonna go about doing it. Those are standards. Some people don't have them. They think values and standards are two different things. So standards adhere to certain regulations and practices. That's it. Such as, a doctor cannot refuse seeing a patient if that patient is in need of medical assistance or in medical help, right? It doesn't matter if that person has no money, it doesn't matter if that person's from a different ethnic background, it doesn't matter if that person had stabbed a doctor before. If that person needs medical assistance or requires medical attention, then the doctor cannot actually say, and this is also legally required by the doctor, they cannot go against their medical profession or their what they actually, or like their medical degree, but actually because of the way they are taught, this is really specific to medicine only. This is why once you actually go through the whole medical school, when you actually go against that, I think they have to take this oath. All doctors take an oath to say that they, regardless of time and place, whatever, they will adhere practice to the regulations set by the medicine and the things that they've learned, and the stuff that they learned was from a long time ago. But the way that they are teaching it, and that's the only way you can learn that and practice medicine that way. If you ever go against it, you automatically cannot function and you lose the ability to practice medicine. It's kind of like programming a person's brain in a way. So the way you learn it is important. Don't try to like use tips and tricks to like go over your doctor's head. I mean, they are thoroughly practiced and well versed, and they've read a lot more case studies than you have will ever be able to get your hands on, due to the fact that they have like ability to go through this. Again, I've noticed that people in Canada who hold medical degrees, they can't read the case studies. Like, they don't know how to read, which is a problem. I mean, some of them, to be fair, are from a background where English is a second language, but some of them legitimately just can't read, even though they're thoroughly proficient in conversational English, which is weird. Like I said before, in Letter to Momo, what happened before was that she got 20 years in prison, and then when she got out, she realized what she's done finally after experiencing it herself. So she didn't really recognize it or understand it during the time that she wasn't talking to her family and was in prison. And then when she got out and experienced like the abuse and other homosexuals targeting her, and people generally just not giving a shit about her because of her current situation or state or whatever, and no one really giving a, like, whatever. Yeah, she got out of prison and she learned that, and she realized like she wasted her entire life. Oops. Yeah, that movie was about her realizing that she wasted her entire life, and realizing that like her like she just kind of like threw away her life just so that she can feel like she's stronger and better than her mom. That's homosexuality. Also, the Greek language is called hypocrisy, so that's how they're speaking. Right, it's called a Hippocratic Oath. But Hippocratic Oath, it's not referring to hypocrisy in the English language. It's referring to, I think, philosopher Hippocrates or something like that. I don't forget the guy's name. It's not like, or it was a Greek word or something. But yeah, the Greek language is called hypocrisy. So that's why a lot of plays and a lot of like shows and all that kind of stuff is in Greek. Which is odd to me, because a lot of the actors who use those type of formats and go by the Greek theologies for their plays and entertainment, such as like music, media, including social media, YouTube videos, whatever, they don't actually learn, like, they don't understand Greek. Like, they don't even understand medical text or anything like that. Like, they can't read medical text, they can't read any sort of Greek things, they've never even read any poetry in Greek, including Homer's Odyssey. That's a classic. Honestly, that's literally like the basic of like how to understand Greek people. It's really boring for me, honestly. It's very patriarchal, really ancient, really old-fashioned, and like it's not a method to make money. Like, you can't make money from going by the Greek system, which is why they use that for medical practices, because you're not supposed to be focused on making money. The whole point is for you to be able to treat the patient, and a lot of times it's going to be on your own time, and it's going to be with things that you use that you can get reimbursed for, but it's not something for, like, let's say a doctor treat a patient and this is how much the materials cost and how much the utilities cost and how much it costs to like make sure that area was clean and healthy and sanitized, and how many people they had to hire to do the operation, right? And the amount they're willing to work for, that's how much they can charge the patient, right? And they are going to be obligated to pay the doctor back, because it would be an out-of-pocket expense, and the doctor will no longer be able to practice, and it becomes unethical on the patient's part. So you're ruining a doctor's ability to heal other people, specifically on the fact that you personally don't want to pay. That's actually another, I think that's some sort of Kantian ethics or something. I don't know what it's called. I think it's called Kantian ethics. But again, the whole ethics and morality, it's in Greek, and it does exist in the English language, but It's kind of hard to understand. Like, this is usually, I've noticed with the British people, they get better with age. So like this is expected of English people, like ethnically from British Isles. They're typically supposed to get better as they get older. Not everybody's like that, and not every white person is British, right? But yeah, the letter to Momo, she finally realized this, and it's kind of like a poetic justice, right? She ended up like stabbing her mom, thinking that she's better than everyone, and nobody even wanted to be near her. The only guy who could see her for who she was scared of her and was keeping an eye on her, so that kind of stuff doesn't happen. He couldn't stop it from happening. Because he wasn't the police, nobody ever got the police involved because she already had a sentencing. And they thought that her getting a sentence would prevent her from even assaulting her mom and getting her shit together. Didn't work until 20 years in prison, where she encountered people who were just like her and thought just like her, but did to her for no reason other than they were just personally frustrated. And she was the nearest person available nearby that they could do it to. And by the time they did it to her, the damage was already done by the time anyone intervened. Right? But that was happening to her repeatedly in prison where nobody really cared, and even if those things happened, she wasn't getting reimbursement for it. Because in prison, nothing that person's wearing or eating or using is their own. It's always somebody else's. Like, the clothes that they get, which is a mandatory uniform, is already given to them by the state. They can't take it out of prison. Any sort of handcuffs or body like harnesses or something like that, again, it's owned by the state, so it's government property. The beds are government property, the bedding, the pillows, the utilities, the toilet, everything, the lighting, that's all government property. The government is the one feeding you. You don't even get to decide what you eat that day. Government property, government property, government property. That's prison. Nothing, you can use those things, but nothing you ever own is yours. And the minute you leave that place, you're gonna have to return all of it. And even if the things get damaged, the thing is, like, they can say that they don't have enough in stock currently, and you're gonna have to go without it until you can get more. Because you can't personally bring your own stuff inside in prison. Like, you have to go by what they're giving you. That's prison. Anyway, I don't know why anybody would want to live in prison. Prison seems like a horrible place to go to. And I think that's like metaphorically like financial prison or like social prison, where none of the friends are your friends, or like I've had people do want to go to prison and like do that to me, where like they just steal from me, and that's what it's like to be in prison. Like, I don't know, maybe it's because they misread what the media was saying. Like, like this is the really accurate part about Letter to Momo, which is why it's considered a film. It's an experience a person gets to have, right? It's not like it's not a moral of the story. It's kind of like you experiencing what a person feels and thinks and how they went through life, right? But in like a visual and auditory format. And sometimes there's linguistics in there too, but most of it is just visual and auditory, so it's easy for anybody to understand. I mean, the harder ones are the ones where I rely heavily on language, which has a lot to do with that country's culture and their customs, which is our country's standards are called customs. Um, yeah. But I don't know why anybody would want to go to prison. Like, I guess they get like they're very naive, and they get like convinced to do those things, or they just pops it in their head that prison's a good place to go, because it's like being on crack. Like, crack makes people think that they're okay and they deserve to live when they actually don't. So like, being in the prison system is like being on crack, because like I mean, you owe a lot of people money and you're leeching off the taxpayers, but you think it's okay because there's tax being paid for it and you don't have to do anything. You can just sit on your ass, do nothing. You can even insult whoever you want and still be fed and clothed and housed. Yeah, that's like being on crack. um, yeah, don't steal. This is kind of like you're putting yourself in prison, like socially. And you're so much worth more than that. It doesn't even matter what anyone has said to you. Your life is worth so much more than what anyone says, and even if you think it's a good idea, even if you feel desperate, even if you feel like you're gonna die, even if you feel like whatever, I just don't think it's a good idea for you to spend your life in prison just so that you can do something that you shouldn't really use. Like the fact that you're being denied access to it means something. Okay? Not that there's a reason for it, it means something. It means that either you're not supposed to be there, or there's people there or using those things that aren't good for you, or that you're not actually ready for it and it's gonna actually hurt you more than help you. So that's kind of like why I personally don't think it's a good idea. I don't think nothing is worth like going to prison for, to me. I mean, metaphorically or literally or otherwise. I don't think. I mean, being in debt is like living in prison. It's like that, but it's not the same thing. Actually, stealing and using stolen things is literally being in prison. That's what crackheads are like. If you've ever seen somebody who stole something and they actually believe it's theirs, those are crackheads. That's what they're like. Like talking to that person is exactly like talking to a crackhead. It fucks them. It's like it just fucks up with their perception, and they when they actually realize it, they get incredibly shocked. Like they can't like. Yeah, anyway, I really like that movie Letter to Momo. It's a nice visual representation of what a criminal's life is like. Life of a criminal. And unfortunately, some people are born criminals. This is not really something that can change. Like, as in, they do learn and they do understand things over a period of time. Also, I'd like to insert that there's been people speeding and making car noises and police sirens going off and fire trucks going off, all told by the UFT faculty who couldn't read the psychology studies to traumatize me and getting me to associate that kind of stuff in my brain every time I think about something. They think that they're doing this intentionally and sneakily and like that it's not affecting them, but it's kind of like what they're doing with the Pavlov stuff. It's just in a different setting, and they've been trying to get away with doing free research material, which is not possible, which is a problem. But yeah, I don't know what to tell them. Like, I think they're trying to get me to become paranoid. They first sent me a lot of memes on Instagram. They got a lot of weird accounts to follow me so I could check out their accounts and see all the weird images, right? And then they hired some people to drive some rental cars around the city where I am by getting people to stalk me and tell them where my locations are and observe me as if I'm being observed by the police. They're going to prison very soon. Their case is already shut and closed and they already filed it. There is a warrant out for all of their arrests. The ones that haven't been arrested or refused to go in the station have had the minute that their warrant for their arrest was released, their bank accounts were seized. and it was seized after they repoed the amount owed. So the debt collectors already came by and did all that kind of stuff, and then whatever they had left over was seized. As in, they can't access the bank accounts unless they show up to the county sheriff or a local courthouse. And when they do, they're gonna get arrested because there's a warrant out for their arrest, but they can't access their bank accounts until that point. And despite their right to the attorney, they actually can't leave prison. The Canadian government, I'm afraid to say, isn't doing so well, and neither is the British. Like, they're not making any money. They've been sitting for a very long time. The only way they've been getting by or getting away with it is reimbursing people for it. So they're basically like, it's not Americans living on credit, it's the British. They're living their life on credit. Um, I think they just realized that they can't actually. They don't, not only is no one willing to actually give them any more loans, but they can't actually take out any more loans because they're not able to pay people back. They don't have enough to pay them back if they took out another loan. So they're not doing well. Neither is the European Union, despite what they're trying to make me look like. That's how what the European Union was involved in, the U of T stuff. The reason is that they want to cook up the book, so they want a reason. So this is a movie that they're talking about. They think that if they can intentionally instigate some sort of mental disorder in me, such as depression or PTSD, and I go get it diagnosed by a professional, like a doctor, then even if it's a misdiagnosis, then that means that they can use that as a legal defense to say that we were just scared. They don't know that even if that was true and even if that happened, that's not a legal defense. That's called discrimination, and there's another suit attached to that. Again, the European Union has been losing money for a very long time. My old piano teacher, I don't know where she was from, but she was calling me the N word the entire time. And I was really surprised. She was trying to molest me any chance she got. But her son would come in. I don't know if it was her son, but another kid was there, would come inside before she would even molest me or anything. I don't know if she was a convicted pedophile, but she does have a criminal charge. And she can't play piano. I heard her play. She can read the notes and she can play, and she can, like, it sounds okay until it gets to the trills, the accents, the a little harder parts where you require like different fingering. She can't actually go by her own fingering. Fingering in piano means that there are keys and there's your hands associated. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So if you want to play a note, then just like 1 goes on this note and 2 goes on that note to help you how to play and how to space out your fingers so you can play the rest of the score. Some people, as they get more proficient at playing piano, they come up with their own style of doing so. So they don't always go by what is written on there, but that's a basic how to guide on how should fingering movements be, and about when you should do something. I actually didn't even listen to her advice or tell her directions. She didn't know how to play piano, and I'm like, you can't even do trills and accents. Like that's just so basic that you can't even do. Which is why I was like, why are you paying her so much money so that like she can abuse me? I think Susan was paying her so I'll get molested by her one day, so I'll turn into a lesbian. That was her goal her entire life, is to turn me into a lesbian. She got arrested today, which is great. A lot of people are going crazy and accusing me for it because they actually fell for bullshit because it's white people bullshit. It's what white people say all the time. And I'm like, yeah, I know, it's fucking bullshit. It's what you guys are like. Except she's poor and not white. And you guys are poor and white. Except you guys are the exact same type of person. Except she's Chinese and you're white. And I pretend like people in Chinese people are saying no. I don't care. I don't care what you say. America, #1. Everyone else, you can go to hell. Just kidding. Obviously, I'm kidding. What else? So that's that. I'm really decided. I'm like split on like how am I supposed to cook my food? Literally, like somebody stole my other stove and I'm not gonna buy another one if it's gonna like obviously it's gonna get returned to me. Apparently this police were using my things while it was confiscated. And I'm like, yeah, this is why everyone calls you tax leeches. And like I think the U of T professors are gonna get arrested very soon. Like I said, everything's already been filed and there's case and there's judge, all that kind of stuff was already addressed and given out. There was warrants for arrest and the police just got arrested today. So a few police officers who got arrested today, including our CMP and OPP, who were actively involved with the scam. Mark Saunders already got arrested. I already know this based on the way that all these strangers are coming at me and harassing me today. They're upset because they thought that that kind of stuff doesn't happen to people of that authority position. And I'm like, do you still live in like, are you a time traveler? Like you're from like 1960 Europe? I mean not 1690 Europe? Or like 1520 Europe? 1520 Germany where that kind of standards didn't exist back then? And nobody actually went by it because it was just made. Wow. Cool. But anyway, the difference between standards and values. These announcements are annoying and they're really salty. That's why the TTC workers keep doing this. They think it's gonna change anything. They're really jealous of me, which is why I don't like taking the TTC. It's not changing anything. I'm not actually mentally affected by it, but I'm really bothered by the stuff that they're saying. It's pissing me off and taking a lot of self-control for me to not actually actively stab them in the face, because that's what they deserve. A stab in the face. That's the only way they're ever gonna learn, kind of like, other than drowning them in the lake, which is what's gonna happen to some of them. But more on that later. Okay, so standards are rules and regulations that you adhere to regardless of time, place, or person. So legal system, those are standards. Okay, it doesn't matter who it is. Okay, it doesn't matter how much money that person has, how many friends that person has. Those are standards. The other is called values. So values is a personal or individual. Corporations also have values. Way to respond to situations and people. It could be in response to an emergency situation, or it could be in response to a favorable situation, such as I like this person, right? So this is like their first approach, their first impression, and how they go about maintaining a relationship. Those are called values. Okay, how they assess relationships, what makes unrealistic, so what are priorities for that person, and what aspects of the relationship they consider important, and how they assess a relationship in relation to themselves and others. So those are all maintained in these things called values. And those values correlate with a person's earning level, their income bracket. Unfortunately, you can't change your values. So once you start working on your values and goals, your values and goals will correlate to your income bracket, and that can't be changed. Sometimes, most of the time, you're actually just born into it. Kind of like you can't change your income bracket regardless of what you do. You're born into wealth. So you're already wealthy from the moment you're born. But that kind of correlative stuff is like you can't change your income bracket no matter how hard you try, even if you steal a lot of money, and you can still be, it could still be state that you have access to this. Your income bracket is your income bracket. That doesn't change. So your income bracket is your total earnings per taxation year. Okay, it's not your quarterly profits, it's your total earnings per year. It does fluctuate over time, and there is a range, it's a spectrum, but it's a cap. So this is a maximum, and then this is a minimum, and whatever's within this range of income level is where you belong. This is your social class, your wealth class. There's a lot of people's social classes. Some people's social classes aren't dependent on this wealth. Okay, they have different standards they go by, not financial standards, but more so like, let's say, acquisition of skills. So the rate at which a person and how much skills a person can acquire within their set amount of life. Also translated into IQ could be their way of assessing a person. physical attributes such as facial symmetry, great health, all that kind of stuff could be also an assessment of someone's status. Like again, different countries value different things, right? And those things that they value in that country will be valued by different people in another country, right? So those things are like those social classes are universal. Okay, but the standards are regional. So the standards a country goes by is your social class in that region, but your standards based regardless of that social bracket is universal. So that's your actual social group. Okay, and the income bracket would be like your regional, like your class. So your social group versus social class. There you go. So here's your income bracket. That's where your class is. These are the people that you're gonna work with and talk to the most, and people that you're gonna trust the most because of the income level. This is somebody that you things that are gonna resonate with between you and another person based on their income bracket, right? That does mean something, okay? But your values and personal values and standards, that's gonna be a social group. So those are your friends, potential neighbors, and potential romantic affiliates. Your little Casanova having all your romantic rendezvous, all that kind of stuff. Like that kind of stuff, those are social groupings. But actual like professional business relationships and your family members, like your colleagues, your business partners, your shareholders, and your family members are gonna be from your social class, the income bracket. But everything else is gonna be your social group, your values. Because your income isn't determined solely based on your personal values, unfortunately. I mean, this is a great thing about income is that you can improve it, but the maximum will be whatever your bracket you're from. So let's say the minimum you can earn is $60,000 in that income bracket, and then the maximum of that income bracket is $80,000. So you can earn more up until $80,000, but you can't earn past that, unfortunately. But that isn't dependent on who you are as a person. That's a very, like, I'm gonna say that's like 10 to 20% of the entire 100% of how much money you're earning. So that kind of stuff is actually more dependent on who was already there. So this is already something that was going on before you were born. The families that live there and the families that support certain businesses through their financial transactions. It could be dependent on the availability of certain employees. So even if there was a job position open and it was suited for you or you're eligible for it, if somebody's already working that position, then you can't go and work that position and receive that person's salary, right? That person already has that job, so you can't do anything other than wait. Hopefully another similar or exact or equal position opens up, or you can go search for the same or similar exact position in a different country. That's a great thing about that, immigration, all that kind of stuff, work visas. But anyway, if you want to see how well your country's doing, just see how well the immigration office is doing. That should be a very good indicator of how much money they're making. Like their tariffs and businesses and trades and stuff, their economy. How's the economy doing? Look at the immigration office. If the immigration office is in shambles and there's a lot of weird seedy stuff going on, they're in a lot of debt. It's not impossible for them to take paid off, but they're not going to be able to get out of it easily, and most likely it's going to lead to failure, which is what sets a lot of people off, and that's when they start getting out of the country. Just take a gander at the immigration office and be like, how is immigration's doing? Okay, yeah, I gotta leave for a bit. Maybe it's time for a vacation. I've been putting that off for a while now. I have saved up, I don't know, like 20 vacation days from working. I'm gonna start using that very, very soon. So you're planning your vacation very soon. That's what that means. Time for a vacation. But yeah, so that's how it's not like unfortunately, again, with your family's inheritance also gets included in the income bracket. So it's not your earnings. I mean, they look at the earnings, but it does include your current inheritance and how much money and valuables you currently hold or are in your possession. As in, you have legal rights and you are legally the owner of these things, including these monies. So that's included in your income bracket. But that fluctuates over time, right? So let's say one year you get $1,000 worth of gifts, right? That's gonna be added onto your income. But that's it. That's not technically income, but it's considered a part of your income. If that makes sense. But yeah, that's what that is. Oh, he's really bad at his taxes. That's probably where he was losing a lot of money. Yeah, you know what? It doesn't hurt to hire an accountant, honestly. I mean, you might think it's a waste of money, but they will actually lay out word for word where your money's going, how you're categorizing it, and where you're spending too much and spending not enough. If you hire an accountant to do your taxes, they will tell you word for word this is exactly how much tax return you should be getting. And even if you have to pay more than the tax return you're getting for the accountant, at least you'll have a very clear outline of how that person does the taxes for you. Right? And you can go off of that, you can work off of that if you want. I mean, they're doing that to make sure that your budgeting and your finances and the taxes that you report to government is very clear, concise, and thorough. So there's no room for error, so you don't get accidentally implicated or an accessory to some sort of financial crime, even if your company is legally responsible for that. Hire an accountant if you need to. I would personally hire an accountant if I could. I would have a personal accountant if I could, honestly. Other than that, like, I'd probably go back to school and get an accounting degree so I can learn how to do my taxes properly. But anyway, income bracket. Like I said, you don't get to control who hires you. Like, they're going off of availability and who already works there and the likelihood of you staying in that position and the likelihood of you enjoying that position. That's the HR stuff, okay? There's a business degree for HR. There's a bunch of people who go to school and then end up working in HR. So they have various backgrounds of undergrad degrees and undergraduate education background. Right? So like, don't think of it as a be all end all to your career. Yeah. So like, you may think that it's not just the job itself that you should be focused on. It's who is your boss, who are your coworkers, and where the job is located, and who are the clients and customers. Like, that kind of stuff also has a lot to do with a person's satisfaction, overall satisfaction in their job, or their career, or their field of work. So that kind of stuff all tied together. You're looking for a certain type of person with a certain set of preferences. Not who are also eligible, so it kind of narrows down the potential candidates, right? Very, very, very small pool of candidates that they can hire from. And if it's between you and another person, and that person is the one that likes working with certain type of people more, or you can tell that this person likes this thing and everybody in the office already likes that thing, but you hate that thing, they're gonna go with the person who likes that thing, because they would rather have people have a good day at work and be more willing to work, put their best foot forward at work, and continue to show up for work for a longer period of time. Like, if you hate that job, despite the fact that you like working that position, sooner or later you're gonna end up quitting, or sooner or later, I don't know, you're gonna end up with like some sort of like, your health is gonna be affected very badly, unless you're like compensating for like, I don't know, you hate everyone at work, but like you love your job, and you go and take like 3 cruises every summer and 2 vacations every winter to a tropical country for a couple of weeks. I mean, that would be the only way you'd be able to work there. Like, you would need that many breaks to work there. But other than that, like, I guess you can negotiate your employment contract or whatever. But like, other than that, like, that's kind of why they're trying to prevent people from doing that. They want people to show up to work all the time. They're like, I like working here, I like these people here, and I really like my job. And they don't want people to lie about it either. They're like, if you don't like working here, then you're supposed to say you don't like working here. Like, you're not supposed to be like lying and saying like, I love working here. I love it. My job is great. My life is fantastic. And they're like, because they keep doing that and like it's causing them to like affect their job performance. And at the end of the day, they can start going on antidepressants or something like that. It's kind of bad. I mean, again, it doesn't really have anything to do with their job sometimes, but sometimes it does. I mean, you're there majority of your day. I've never worked a job where it's like only part-time 4 hours per week. Like I only have to show up to work 4 hours per week and I had enough money made from that job to pay my bills. Like for those kind of jobs I think it's very rare. I mean if you're lucky you might be able to work from home. I thought there was something on my leg but it was just a cord. But that's it. Like it's kind of hard to like find a job that you really love and you really like and you really want to work in and you also like everyone there. I mean that's very ideal. I think it's kind of like assuming that everybody on earth is there to please you. I think that's childish personally. I think it's hard to find anywhere you live with a group of people that you're close to or befriending that you like everyone or like you like them all the time. Just because everyone has such a certain amount of preferences and most of it is grouped by income or region, right? It's kind of like hard to navigate away from that and like, you know, find people who are more like you, which might be from a different country with different languages and different standards, which is hard to learn at that age. Like, what your parents are gonna like make sure that you go to every country and then, like, oh, yeah, now you can speak like 5 different languages and you can make friends in any language if you really wanted to be friends with that person and you don't have to worry about being able to communicate with that person. 5 language options available. It's not really like that for most people, unfortunately. So you're either forced to learn their language or they're forced to learn your language. But it's not always a bad thing. I mean, it does really increase with your working memory and like your linguistic skills, which is always a good thing. But yeah. I should probably learn a new language. I'm trying to learn Spanish. Yeah, it's hard to learn Spanish. Also, I am still split on if I should do it. She's done.